Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Firstpost America. We're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., and over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before let's look at the latest headlines. President Trump says he will host leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan at the White House, eyeing a breakthrough peace deal between the two Caucasus after decades of conflict. The Trump administration imposes tariffs on 1 kilogram and 100 ounces of gold bars, dealing a fresh blow to Switzerland, the world's largest gold refining hub. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz halts arms exports to Israel for use in Gaza following approval of a Gaza City takeover plan by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet. OpenAI unveils GPT-5, the long-awaited update to its flagship large language model that powers ChatGPT. Microsoft hails it as the most capable model to advance AI reasoning in both coding and mathematics. And thousands evacuated in northern Los Angeles as fast-moving brush fire scorches over 5,000 acres. Firefighters battle to contain the growing blaze. We began at the White House, where Donald Trump is on the warpath once again, calling for the immediate resignation of Intel's chief executive, Lip-Bu Tan, accusing him of being highly conflicted to China. President Trump's comments came after Republican Senator Tom Cotton sent a letter to Intel's board raising concern over Tan's investment in Chinese companies, including some allegedly linked to China's military. Now, Tan, a naturalized U.S. citizen, was born in Malaysia and raised in Singapore. A venture capitalist and semiconductor industry veteran, Tan was appointed Intel CEO back in March to revive the struggling chip maker. But the company has fallen behind competitors in recent years despite receiving billions in federal support to boost domestic chip production. Senator Cotton's letter also cited a Reuters investigation from April, which reported that Tan personally and through venture funds invested in hundreds of Chinese companies between 2012 and December of 2024. Cotton also referenced Tan's previous role as CEO of Cadence Design Systems, whose Chinese subsidiary pleaded guilty last month to violating U.S. export controls by doing business with China's National University of Defense Technology. Now, Intel has defended its chief executive, stating that the company, its board, and Tan are deeply committed to advancing U.S. national and economic security interests and making investments aligned with the administration's America First agenda. They also added that the firm looked forward to continued engagement with the White House.
There has been a lot of misinformation circulating about my past roles at Walden International and Cadence Design Systems. I want to be absolutely clear. Over 40-plus years in the industry, I built relationships around the world and across our diverse ecosystem, and I have always operated within the highest legal and ethical standards. My reputation has been built on trust, on doing what I say I'll do, and doing it the right way. This is the same way I am leading Intel.
Now, this is not the first time an Asian leader, a tech leader, has been pressed over alleged Chinese connections. In fact, back in 2024, TikTok CEO Zhu Zhichu, a Singaporean citizen, appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee alongside other major tech executives to answer questions about online safety for children. And during the hearing, Senator Cotton repeatedly questioned Zhu about his nationality and whether he had ties to the Chinese Communist Party. But Zhu stated that he's Singaporean, adding that his country does not allow dual citizenship. He then denied ever applying for Chinese citizenship or even being part of the Chinese Communist Party.
So, you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in
asked-
Singapore. No, I did not.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm
Okay.
Singaporean.
For now, Intel's CEO remains in his role at Intel as the company navigates both business challenges and political scrutiny. But whether President Trump's latest demand will result in leadership change or spark another high-profile confrontation remains to be seen. A day after President Trump's tariffs took effect in over 90 countries, these increased duties are now set to impact consumer purchases at American retail stores. Major U.S. retailers such as Walmart, Amazon, Target, and Gap have reportedly halted orders from India. Now, this comes after President Donald Trump slapped a 50% tariff on Indian goods, including a penalty linked to New Delhi's continued imports of Russian oil. Exporters in India have reportedly received urgent messages from U.S. buyers to pause apparel and textile shipments until further notice. And here's the rub. American importers are reportedly not willing to share the added cost of burden. President Trump's tariffs aren't just a number in a policy document. In fact, they raise costs for U.S. buyers by 30 to 35%. And when those costs go up, they eventually trickle down to the average consumer, whether at Walmart's bargain racks or Gap's seasonal collections. Analysts warn American orders from India could drop by up to 50%, potentially impacting $4 to $5 billion worth of trade. The biggest fallout, of course, will be to the Indian textile industry that stands to lose huge swaths of their American business. The U.S. is India's single biggest market for textiles and apparel, taking nearly a third of all shipments. In fact, last year, the overall textile and apparel import from India was worth over $36 billion. And the Trump administration says the tariff is necessary because India continues to import Russian oil, imports Washington says undermines sanctions. President Trump split the tariff rollout in two waves. 25% came into effect on August 7th, and another 25% are set to land on August 28th. In his executive order, President Trump wrote that the penalty was necessary and appropriate to respond to India's purchases of Russian oil.
You start with the fact that India is the Maharaja of tariffs. It's the highest tariffs in the world, charging on American products, and it's got high non-tariff barriers, so we can't get our products in. The president understands the connection between economic security and national security, so that was the bottom line there.
Now, New Delhi has responded, calling the move unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. India also highlighted that Washington still imports Russian uranium for nuclear plants, palladium for EV batteries, and fertilizers, while Europe, which has also criticized India, bought a record 16.5 million tons of Russian LNG just last year. And on top of everything, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he was ready to pay the price to protect the country's farmers.
हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है। भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
But while this geopolitical tit-for-tat plays out, the reality for American shoppers is more immediate. And when supply lines from one of the world's top textile exporters get squeezed, prices tend to rise. Basic t-shirts, bed sheets, and towels could cost more. And as the situation unfolds, the key question is less about Russia, oil, or India. It's more straightforward. Are American consumers ready to bear the brunt of President Trump's geopolitical decisions? And now from trade to defense, Spain has shelved plans to purchase the U.S.-made F-35 fighter jets indefinitely. Reports in the Spanish media now say Madrid will choose between the European-made Eurofighter and the future combat air system. The move is partly driven by Madrid's plan to spend most of this year's additional defense budget, $12.2 billion, inside Europe. And at the same time, Spain's Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has committed to raising defense spending to the NATO target of 2% of GDP by next year. But he has flatly rejected Washington's push for a long-term 5% spending goal. Now, President Donald Trump has criticized that position and even threatened additional tariffs on Spanish goods. The decision is a setback for Lockheed Martin, the maker of the F-35, a jet that, despite its cutting-edge stealth and combat capabilities, has been dogged by technical and safety issues. In fact, last month, a U.S. Navy F-35 crashed in California, and the pilot, however, ejected safely. In January, an Air Force F-35 crashed during training in Alaska, and in June, a British Royal Navy F-35 was stranded in India for over a month, unserviceable due to a fault. These incidents have fueled criticism over the jet's software reliability, high maintenance costs, and complex operational requirements. So far, the U.S. has delivered over 900 F-35s to 8 allies, including the UK, Japan, Israel, and Italy, with countries like Canada, Germany, and Poland still waiting for their orders. But back-to-back mishaps have sparked questions over whether some buyers might look elsewhere, to Russia, France, or even Turkey. Washington has also tried to sell the F-35 to India during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's U.S. visit in February of this year, but so far, New Delhi has shown little enthusiasm. Now, India is not a partner of the F-35 program and has been focusing on indigenous fighter development alongside alternatives like the French Rafale. With Spain walking away, India still unmoved, and safety questions piling up, the F-35 sales pitch isn't as airtight as its makers would like. Clearly, we're seeing the troubling signs of turbulence for America's flagship fighter jet. Looks like Superman is back to saving America, but this time, no phone booths, no kryptonite, and definitely not a cape. Dean Cain, the TV Man of Steel, is signing up with ICE, and he's not alone. The Trump administration wants to turn this into a recruitment blockbuster, casting everyone from Gen Z TikTok stars to retired cops in its latest mission. Cape optional, badge, however, required. Here's the story with more.
It looks like Superman is swapping his cape for a badge. Dean Cain, the actor best known for playing the Man of Steel, in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman from 1993 to 1997, says he's about to become a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent. Well, an honorary one at least. Already a sworn deputy sheriff and reserve police officer, Cain revealed in an interview that he will be sworn as an ICE agent as soon as possible. The Department of Homeland Security confirmed that Cain will be sworn in next month, describing his act as an encouragement to Americans to become real-life superheroes. Cain says he hopes other former officers and ICE veterans will also step up to help meet the hiring targets.
You can earn lots of great benefits and pay. Yet since President Trump took office, ICE has arrested hundreds of thousands of criminals, including terrorists, rapists, murderers, pedophiles, MS-13 gang members, drug traffickers, you name it. Very dangerous people who are no longer on the streets. You can defend your homeland and get great benefits like a $50,000 signing bonus. Think about that. Student loan repayment legally. Enhanced retirement benefits, and special pay for those in the field operations and law enforcement roles. So if you want to help save America, ICE is arresting the worst of the worst and removing them from America's streets. I like that. I voted for that. They need your help. We need your help to protect our homeland and our families.
But this time, Superman will not be fighting alone. He will be joined by an army of Gen Z Americans. The Trump administration is gearing up for a massive PR blitz to fill more than 14,000 immigration enforcement roles, and Gen Z is firmly in its sights. In July, officials announced that ICE aims to hire an additional 10,000 new personnel, which would double the agency's headcount. Government documents reveal plans for an urgent national advertising campaign aimed at attracting potential recruits, especially young adults just entering the workforce, military veterans, former law enforcement, and legal professionals. ICE wants to reach more than 42 million people. the advertisements are set to dominate digital streaming platforms, from YouTube and X to Hulu, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime. Marketing firms will use geofencing and behavioral targeting to reach candidates. They've also dropped the age cap, so applicants over 40 can apply. In a bid to broaden the talent pool, the lower age limit remains 18, meaning college freshmen could soon be donning ICE badges. The agency wrote in its recruitment pitch that this is a critical priority, calling for an awareness saturation initiative to flood both online and traditional media. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem framed the move as a patriotic mission to remove murderers, pedophiles, gang members, rapists, and other criminal illegal aliens from US streets. With a superhero frontman, a youth-targeted advertisement blitz, and relaxed age rules, ICE's recruitment drive looks less like a quiet HR exercise and more like a blockbuster casting call, one where the role of America's next enforcement hero could go to anyone, from a Gen Z TikTok scroller to a retired cop.
And finally, the United States has placed a record-breaking $50 million bounty on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, accusing him of masterminding one of the largest drug trafficking networks in the world. The move, announced by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, doubles the earlier $25 million reward and comes with fresh allegations that the Venezuelan leader worked with powerful cartels to flood America with fentanyl-laced cocaine. Washington says it seized hundreds of millions in assets tied to the Venezuelan leader, while Caracas calls the claims a ridiculous smokescreen. Amid political tensions, sanctions, and backdoor deals, the stakes have never been higher. Our final report takes you inside.
The United States has just put a historic price tag on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, $50 million. The reward, doubled from $25 million, comes with explosive allegations that Maduro is one of the world's most powerful narco-traffickers. The announcement was made on Thursday by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who called Maduro a threat to national security and vowed that he would not escape justice under President Donald Trump's leadership.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. He is one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world and a threat to our national security. Therefore, we've doubled his reward to $50 million. Under President Trump's leadership, Maduro will not escape justice and he will be held accountable for his despicable crimes.
Bondi further accused the Venezuelan leader of working hand-in-hand with dangerous cartels, including Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, and the shadowy cartel of the Suns, to flood the U.S. with fentanyl-laced cocaine.
Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. To date, the DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself, which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico.
The $50 million bounty places Maduro alongside the most wanted figures in U.S. history, matching and even surpassing offers once made for terrorist leaders. While the original reward for his arrest was set at $15 million in 2020 during Trump's first term, it later increased to $25 million during the Biden administration. And now, the figure has more than tripled since that first indictment, which charged Maduro and senior officials with narco-terrorism, corruption, and conspiracy to smuggle cocaine into the United States. Bondi's fiery video message included a public hotline for tips. She alleged that Maduro's government uses drugs as a weapon to target the U.S., echoing claims made by the Justice Department years earlier when it accused him of collaborating with Colombia's FARC rebels.
If you have any information to bring this criminal to justice, call 1-202-3 307-4228 or go online.
But Caracas is hitting back hard. Venezuela's foreign minister dismissed the US reward as the most ridiculous smokescreen ever seen. He accused Bondi of creating a crude political propaganda operation to distract from controversies surrounding her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. He also branded Bondi's announcement as a desperate distraction from her own miseries.
It does not surprise us, coming from who it comes from. The same one who promised a non-existent secret list of Epstein and who wallows in scandals of political favors. Her show is a joke, a desperate distraction from her own miseries. The dignity of our homeland is not for sale. We reject this crude political propaganda operation.
Maduro, who has ruled since 2013 after succeeding Hugo Chavez, has long been accused of silencing dissent, jailing opponents and rigging elections. His 2024 re-election was condemned as fraudulent by Washington. The European Union and several Latin American countries instead recognized the opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as Venezuela's rightful president. Still, Maduro's grip on power remains firm. The bounty announcement comes just weeks after high-stakes diplomacy between the US and Venezuela. Last month, the Trump administration struck a deal with Maduro's government to free 10 Americans jailed in Caracas, in exchange for the US deporting scores of migrants to El Salvador. Soon after, Washington eased restrictions on Chevron, allowing the oil giant to resume drilling in Venezuela despite previous sanctions.
There are already working groups for Chevron to resume its functions. I congratulate them. It seems very good to me. Chevron has been in Venezuela for 102 years, and I want them to have 100 more years of peaceful work. Every investor from the United States who wants to work with serious people of their word on the basis of legality, come to Venezuela. Venezuela is the paradise of investments for oil, gas, petrochemicals, and hydrocarbons. Welcome whenever and however you want.
For now, Maduro remains defiant in Caracas. The US has the cash, the accusations are damning, the political stakes are high, but whether anyone can step forward to claim $50 million and bring down the Venezuelan leader is a question no one can yet answer.
And from all of us here at Firstpost America, we certainly thank you for tuning in, not just today, but every day. We hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.